Hello everyone, welcome to the Essence Wolf Werewolf PvP build. This is a build that I've used successfully against some of the most broken meta classes from update 33. I'm looking at you, Templars and Dragon Knights. This build isn't for everyone. It's not a tanky stand in front of someone until they die sort, and requires an understanding of movement as well as awareness of what's around you to really use it to its potential. With that said, let's dive into the build. So for our race, we were using a Imperial Sorcerer. Other races can work as well for this, particularly ones that give more hybrid stats, such as Dunmer or Khajiit. In my case, I prefer the extra health and stamina that Imperial offers, as well as the incredible 6% across the board cost reduction. It is stupendous, especially in PvP. We're using Sorcerer because it offers high mobility outside of Werewolf form, in addition to giving the best lineup of passives for Werewolf in the game. Additionally, the class plays into our out-of-form playstyle. I have set up my Imperial here with 24 points in health to get up to 28,000 hit points with our food buff, and 40 points in stamina. For weapons, I'm using a Wretched Vitality Inferno Staff on the, well, what would be the front bar. I tend to do things backwards in here for some reason. And a Wretched Vitality Bow on my back bar, both with the Sharpen trait and weapon damage enchants. This set is an excellent sustain set. It gives a whopping 519 stamina and magicka recovery when fully procced up, as well as some extra weapon and spell damage. In our helmet slot, I am using a heavy impenetrable Swarm Mother's Visage, but any double stat set will do, giving both stamina and magicka. A tri-stat helmet such as Baron Zadr's can work as well, for some extra health, though the total stat bonus is actually lower than the double stat. It's like 500 something per line. For shoulders, gloves, and belts, I am using the Essence Thief set. So this is the namesake of the build and offers a strong 5-piece. For the other three lines, we've got 1058 maximum stamina, 1058 or 1096, excuse me, I've only got purple on these. 1096 maximum stamina on 2 lines and a line of weapon and spell damage. The 5-piece is really what we're here for, though. That is, dealing damage with a light or heavy attack draws essence from the enemy that pools near them for 5 seconds. Drawing from the pool heals you for 4,288 health, restores 4,204 stamina, and increases your damage done by 10% for 10 seconds, and a pool can only be created once every 10 seconds. Not only does this offer healing and additional sustain, but it gives a unique plus 10% damage boost for 10 seconds. The only downside to the set is that in order to get this buff, you need to hunt down the pools as they spawn, which shouldn't be a problem with the Sorcerer's class and Werewolf's mobility. And you can find this set in the White Gold Tower dungeon, and it only comes in medium. It's the medium set out of there. For our chest, we have a heavy reinforced Wretched Vitality, and legs is a medium well-fitted Wretched Vitality. Everything but the helmet and the chest is well fitted. The reason for this, and there being 5 pieces of medium armor, is the reduction in the cost of roll and sprint, and the extra weapon damage that medium armor gives. For our jewelry, we're using an Essence Thief neck and ring, and then for our Mythic, we're actually using Death Dealer's Fates. So this is actually incredibly strong on Werewolf because of the multiplier that it gets to stamina. So it's a plus 30% stamina. But it reads, gain a persistent stack of escalating fate every 2 seconds. You are in combat up to 30 stacks max. Each stack of escalating fate increases your maximum stamina, health, and magicka by 88. You lose a stack of escalating fate every 4 seconds. You are out of combat. So this actually works out to 2,640 of each stat, which is incredible for a single piece. And that extra 30% gives even more stamina whenever you're in werewolf form. As far as enchants go, we're using Tri-Stat for the chest legs, and helmet, and the rest is all going to be stamina enchants. On our jewelry, they're all infused weapon damage, so if you get that up to gold, that's going to be an additional 278 weapon damage per piece of jewelry. So, skills. I actually play this a little bit different than one might expect for a werewolf. Our out of form play is actually going to be more similar to a magic sorcerer than a stamina one. So on our bar, we have crystal fragments. This hits stupid hard. Conjures a dark crystal to bombard an enemy, dealing 9,653 magic damage, and your next non-ultimate ability, cast within 3 seconds, costs 10% less. But with this morph, casting a magic ability has a 35% chance of causing your next crystal fragments to be instant, deal 66% more damage, and cost half as much. It's not the spammable that you use on this build. You're only going to hit this whenever it procs up, but it is going to hit really hard when it does. We're also using Streak. We're actually using this on both bars. It is an excellent utility and escape ability. You flash forward, you deal shock damage, and you stun for 3 seconds. But if you cast it again within 4 seconds, it costs 33% more, and that stacks the more that you cast it, so you can't just go crazy streaking. Crushing Shock is actually our spammable outside of form. So this is a Destruction Staff ability. So this is the morph that gives an interrupt to the ability. So it focuses all elemental energies with your staff and blast an enemy for 2,707 flame frost and an additional 2,800 shock damage, which is higher because we're on a sorcerer. Enemies hit while casting are interrupted, set off balance, and stunned for 3 seconds. It's very good. If you're in a keep, you're out of form, you're trying to build up some ulti, this is a great way to interrupt and just basically be a pain while you're rebuilding that ultimate. We're also using Critical Surge for our Major Brutality and Sorcery, so that's going to give us that for 33 seconds, and while it's active, anytime that we critically strike or deal critical damage, we are healed. It's actually a significant amount of healing. It's not something to sleep on. And finally, this is our flex slot. I use Radiant Mage Light. It summons a mode of Mage Light. It's a stealth reveal. It's got a really large range of 12 meters. And while it's slotted, you get an additional... you gain Major Savagery and Prophecy, getting additional critical strike rating. But this is also a bit of an anti-gank that you prevent the stun from stealth attacks on you and nearby allies. So this is it's an excellent utility. You could slot something else in here. If you wanted additional weapon damage or spell damage, you could run Camo Hunter. That would also give you a Major Savagery. It's kind of up to you on this one. And then for our ultimate ability on our front bar, this is actually going to be Absorption Field. This is purely for those times when Werewolf will just straight up get you killed. So this is like ball groups if they're stacking up. If you've got Necro Bombers, you can drop a negate on them, or drop the Absorption Field on them, and that will remove the Dark Convergence proc that's going to murder everyone. And this particular morph that I'm using, the Absorption Field, also gives healing to allies. So 3166 every 1 second, so that's 12 seconds. I mean, it's a decent AoE heal. It's not amazing, but it's a great utility spell. So on our back bar, this is actually going to be our more defensive setup. We are using Dark Deal. This is a great sustain ability. This is the one that converts Magicka into Stamina, whereas the other converts Stamina into Magicka. So this heals, it gives us Stamina recovery, and gives us additional stamina recovery over 20 seconds. It does have a cast time. I'm actually glad they fixed this. It used to say instant. You can get stuck on your bar if you're spamming this. It will not let you bar swap while you're using this ability, but excellent ability as it is. Once again, got streak here. This, in this case, is actually used as an escape, whereas on our front bar, we're actually using it to stun people for dropping a crystal frag onto them. Magnum shot. It's not really there for the damage, although this does hit remarkably hard for what is essentially a stun. This is actually another escape ability here. So it deals damage, knocks them back 8 meters. It's incredibly trolly. You can knock people off of keeps, you can knock people off of bridges. If somebody's chasing you, flipping around and hitting them with a magnum shot can get you an extra bit of space to get away. It's a very useful skill. Resolving Vigor for our primary heal. The way that we're primarily going to use this is we're going to streak, we're going to roll dodge, and we're going to hit Vigor. That's going to give you space between you and your attacker. It's going to allow you to dodge whatever has been cast while you're streaking. It will give you major expedition because you're on a bow bar, and then you're going to get healed up. So it's perfect. Very strong. And our final skill here is actually going to be Hurricane. This gives us minor expedition, and it deals damage in an area, as well as giving us major resolve, which is going to buff our resistances, which in this build, our resistances aren't terribly high because we are using a medium armor build without a defensive set. And finally, this is where we have our werewolf slotted, so we're going to be using Pack Leader. Pack Leader gives us the basic 30% extra stamina that both morphs get, but you also take 10% less damage. You summon 2 dire wolves, each of which can apply, I think it's Maim, and a snare. This is in addition to giving yourself and your nearby group members minor courage, which is an additional 215 weapon and spell damage. And while this is slotted, you also increase your stamina recovery by 15%, which is great for, doing those extra roll dodges or sprinting to get away. Our final bar here is actually going to be our werewolf bar. So, on this, that is incorrect bar, there we go. I'm actually using this a little bit different than your typical bar setup for a PvP werewolf. Brutal Pounce is pretty normal, but I'm actually using Claws of Life. This, if you can get it on a group of people, is really good healing. It's not amazing, it's not as strong as say, rapid regen or whatnot, stuff that all the other classes get, but if you can get this on a lot of people, this is going to be a pretty potent heal over time for you. It can be cleansed, which is a downside, but it does apply minor defile through the disease status effect, which is useful. We're using Howl of Agony, which is pretty standard. If you're facing an enemy or you have them feared, they're going to take 25% more damage. This hits really hard. You can just delete health bars with this if you can manage to land them. This is probably going to be our biggest difference between most PvP builds, and this is going to be Hircine's Rage. Because of the amount of sustain that we have in this build, and because of the extra healing that we're getting from Claws of Life, I'm opting to use this because it gives us major berserk. We do also take an additional 5% damage while that is active, but the recoveries and the healing that we get from the Claws of Life, as well as the pools that we're getting from Essence Thief, they more than make up for that downside. But that extra 10% damage on top of the 10% that we're getting from Essence Thief, on top of whatever other bonuses or modifiers you might have on somebody, it becomes pretty overwhelming. And finally, we're using Deafening Roar. This is the morph that applies Major Breach to enemies in addition to Minor Maim. So it's going to reduce the damage that they do, and it's going to increase the damage that you do to them, in addition to being an AoE fear. So one of the things that you'll see in this is that we are using a bow for our werewolf weapon. So one of the major problems with werewolf is that almost none of the weapon passives other classes enjoy pass through when you're in werewolf form. So one of the exceptions to this is the bow passive. That would be Hasty Retreat. That is going to be right here. So that gives you Major Expedition for 4 seconds after you roll dodge. Major Expedition is not a thing that you can get as a werewolf. You get a plus 30% innate speed modifier, which is spectacular, but this paired with Major Expedition gives you the movement speed cap while sprinting, which is why we're not learning any swift jewelry. Between a roll dodge giving us Major Expedition and the 30% that Werewolf gives, we are quite hasty. We can move around the battlefield very easily. This also plays into why we're running Well Fitted and Medium Armor. We roll dodge more, we keep Major Expedition up. We stay alive, we kill things. So anyway, that's the Essence Werewolf PvP build. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe.